And we're live again. Oh my goodness me, we're halfway through the whole of the second series. Welcome to Equidance Live, your equestrian chat and entertainment show, I think you can call it now. Well, I don't quite know what to call it this evening because actually I'm a little bit out of my comfort zone because we've been talking to all kinds of riders and trainers and freestyle and dressage. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are going all sciencey. And we've got the amazing Dr. David Marlin coming to join us for our show tonight. Which for me, I'm not the scientist. You see, this is the daft thing. Mrs. Equidance is doing the PhD in science, not me. And I was like, girls, you've got to do the show. Like, no, I can't stand there in front of all these people and talk. So actually, I've got to know David. And as you saw, maybe on some of the ticker feed comments, I was a little bit nervous about talking to him. I'm not anymore because we get on super well and we've got loads in common. And this show isn't the kind of show where we're just going to ask the standard, boring, pole up the backside questions. Oh, so tell me about your career in science, Dr. David Marlin. You know that's not going to happen. This is going to be fun. We're going to find out about him, what he does, what he's interested in, what his passions are, what drives him and what makes him tick. However, for these shows to survive, you've got to share them. So it's a like and share situation. If you know how to start a watch party, do it now. Here's your opportunity. Watch party start. If you want to share this on any of your equestrian, so share it now. Now is your time. There's so much coming up that I've got to slow down because otherwise I will forget something. Right. So I've got a huge call sheet here to get through. We've got some housekeeping first of all. Right. Here is what's happened so far and also what is going to happen in the future. This is our Equidance Live menu for lockdown. And as you see, we already had Anna Ross and Beth Brainbridge from Elite Dressage earlier on in January. And then fabulous Bobby and Paul Haler, Team Haler, came to join us after that. Steph Croxford, we had a right laugh with her and a few tears, of course, over that lovely video with Mr. P. And then on the 29th, we had the most magnificent Jenny Lawston-Clark. Hello, Jenny. I know you're watching. Lovely to see you from Catherton Stud with her granddaughter, Charlotte Dicker. So tonight, we've got Dr. David Marlin. So it's all sciencey. Next week, we've got Gillian Higgins from Horses Inside Out. So it's sciencey again. So I don't quite know where this is going. But then we're joined by Sir Lee Pearson, CBE. More Olympic medals than any other great. And then, lucky, we've got Tristan Tucker right at the end, as long as his wife's had this baby. That's TRT method on the 26th. I don't know whether we will be going on further than that. It all depends on how the lockdown's going, of course. We don't know, we can't tell, we can't predict, and I'd be a fool to try to. Anyway, so as always, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we put it on for absolutely free. All of our guests come on for free, absolutely for free. No money exchanges hands. The only thing that's exchanged hands is my favourite wine company has given me some wine to say, and literally it is my favourite wine, so I'm quite happy to shout about it, and I'll show you a little bit about that later. That no money, nothing, it's all just a bit of fun. So Horse World is our charity, our chosen charity. Horse World are incredible. Petra, who used to head up Brook, now heads up Horse World. It's a charity between Gloucester and Bristol, and they take in horses and they do wonderful work with youngsters. They rescue horses. It's phenomenal. And of course, as you can imagine, after the last year, it's really, really tough for them. So not only do we want to raise awareness about our chosen charity that we'll always support and always have, Horse World, we'd also please like you to help us out. So if you like our shows and you love our guests and we would really appreciate it if you could just give a little bit to Horse World. Now it's quite simple, just for £3 donation, and you can text this as many times as you want. Text Horse World to 70085. That's Horse World to 70085. Okay, and I'm going to show you that screen later as well. But please, please, please support our charity. We are doing this literally to keep everyone engaged and fun and have some fun in these tough times on a Friday night. And I'll talk to you more about some fun we're having tomorrow night. But it's really important for us that if you appreciate what we do, you can appreciate our charity. That would be, it's not our charity, it's the charity we support. That would be incredible. If you want to give a little bit more, you can go onto the Equidance Facebook page and you can see a link to go to Horseworld. If you just search Horseworld in Google, there's a donations page and you can give monthly or whatever you want to give. Right, thank you. I won't labour the point, but that would be fantastic. Just so you all know, we are Equidance, and we are a freestyle music arrangement company predominantly. We love dressage. We live, breathe and eat dressage. Mrs. Equidance is a rider and a trainer, trains her own horses. We have some lovely ones in, and what we do is freestyle music most of the time. And of course we haven't been doing that a lot because everyone is locked down like we are. There's no clinics. A lot of people can't get to arena. So we've got a little incentive to get you thinking about how you're going to move forward. And that incentive is a £200 Equidance giveaway. A £200 Equidance giveaway tonight. Look, I've got 10 £20 vouchers here. Look at that. Look at my wad. Right, they are going to go out to the first 10 people. The first 10 people, not now. The first 10 people at the end of the show to email this email address. mrs.equidance@gmail.com. At the end of the show, not until the show ends, once the show ends, if you email mrs.equidance@gmail.com, we will give away 200 quid. That's 10, 20 quid vouchers. And that's for your music arrangements. Look at that. Aren't we generous? So it's mrs.equidance@gmail.com. There we go. Right. I've just got a little video about Horseworld before we continue, and it is here.
So I'm Caris Chadwick. I'm one of the vets for B&W Equine. I work out on the road, do a bit of everything sort of day to day. But a big sort of part of my daily or my weekly life is here at Horseworld, which is where we are now.
So Horseworld is a charity. We've been here since 1952. We were originally set up to rescue old working horses, but as the needs for rescuing different types of horses have changed, fortunately all of the horses that we take in nowadays are rescued horses.
I come here every week. We do a clinic here every Wednesday. And it ranges really. It's sort of everything from your routine day-to-day stuff, coming in and seeing ongoing cases, vaccinations, blood samples, all that sort of a thing, right the way through to the big rescues that come in. Like we've sort of had one last night. They come in and that's where the real challenge comes for me. You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, we had an emergency last night. We got a call from myself and another member of staff got a call from our managing director about 8 o'clock to say that there was a mare that had got stuck underneath a lorry body, and could we make sure that we were on site to be able to receive the mare coming in.
This is where we start with them, so we have to go in and have a full analysis and things, but she was certainly in a very bad way. I don't think she probably would have lasted much longer where she was because she was trapped away from water, and had sort of sustained quite serious injuries. Obviously the longer they are, they thrash around, and that's where you sort of get the fractures and things. She's fully sort of weight bearing and walking okay, so we think we're okay from that point of view, but yeah, sort of one of the nasty cases that we would come across, unfortunately.
There we go, absolutely fabulous charity. So just once more, I'm going to show you that screen so you know how to text to give. And that's text Horseworld to 70085 to donate £3. But just also please go and check out their website. Go and see what they do. It really is fabulous. And Petra is heading up a fabulous little place there. It's also, once all this is over, well worth a visit on an open day. Right, where are we? Tomorrow night. Now, we're doing something quite unique tomorrow night. It is an Equidance Live thing, but we've been advertising a virtual party. I'm not joking. A virtual party. And on this virtual party, you may ask, how is that going to work? Well, we're doing all kinds of things to make it work really, really well for you. One of them is we're going to be running a fancy dress or best dressed competition. And I've got a massive, actually, I haven't got the rosette here. We've had a massive rosette made, like a horse rosette made with Equidance. The winner of whoever the best or best fancy dress, and you just send your pictures in and we'll judge it on the night. It'll be great fun. We're also doing a new thing called Speedmate. Not speed date, but Speedmate, where you can call in, you'll be on the big screen on the projector, and you can you've got 2 minutes to tell everyone about yourself, and then someone else can phone up, 2 minutes to tell everyone about themselves. We've got live music streamed from John Clare. It's going to be phenomenal, like boogie woogie pianos. We've really pulled all the stops out. We've got balloons, we've got party poppers, we've got an equestrian pub quiz. So tomorrow night, join us here from 8 o'clock. I'm sure I've got the party banner. There we go. Yep. Join us here from 8 o'clock. We've got it all going on. It's going to be so much fun. And also it's sponsored by our wine friends, Shaw's Iberian. And if you go to their website and have a look at what wines they're in time now, but my are literally our favourite wines. I'm not joking. You want to give Shaw's Iberian a go, especially the Caballa Oscuro range, which is what we've got here tonight. So Shaw's Iberian, there's my top tip for wines. And believe me, I'm really fussy when it comes to wine. Anyway, let's move on. The party info's done. We've got someone really special joining us now. Just before Dr. David Marlin comes on, we've got someone to talk about something that is quite magnificent. So I'm going to bring on screen now, if I can. Hello, Sophie. How are you?
I'm very well. Hello, Tony. Thank you for inviting me on.
Well, do you know what? Everyone's going to be wondering, who on earth have I just brought on before Dr. David Marlin? Because no one's expecting this, of course. Can I just give you the introduction? So this is Sophie Robinson, and she is doing the great Horses for Health UK Relay. Horses for Health UK. What's it all about, Sophie?
Well, it's one of those things that just came from an innocent little thought whilst having my porridge on the 30th of December, watching the resume on the breakfast news all about the fundraising that people like Captain Sir Tom Moore had done.
God rest his soul.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought, gosh, we surely must be able to do something equestrian wise, and a relay seemed a simple idea. And I thought, oh, maybe we'll get a few hundred people. We're just over 7,600 members now in 6 weeks. So it's obviously ignited a lot of interest. But the idea is to support some charities. Funnily enough, Horse World is our charity.
Hang on.
Yeah, so the delightful Petra Ingram, I've been speaking with her quite regularly. We've had some other charities as well. So we've got 3 core principles that we want to support. Vulnerable road user safety.
Yeah.
Mental health and well-being, but through equines.
Yeah.
And then also the horse welfare. And so we thought, well, by doing a relay, we can get lots of people involved. They can do as much or as little as they like, as many times as they like, and we're going to start it all across the summer.
So how does this relay actually, I mean, are we talking literally on horseback with a baton?
Yes.
Oh.
And there'll be virtual batons. So we've got some lovely people that have joined that are up in the Outer Hebrides. So we're plotting all the postcodes of all our members onto a digital map, which has been a challenge in itself, but we're getting there. And yes, and the idea will be those obviously in the islands will ride to the coast. Then they'll be able to send a virtual baton to the next rider. And wherever possible, we've got carriage drivers, we've got people that are going to walk their horses in hand. So we're pretty confident that we will be able to navigate all the way down from the very, very top of Scotland, all the way down to the very, very tip of Land's End.
Well, do you know what? Kelly Clare told me about this, a friend of yours, and it totally captured my imagination, which is why we've got this fabulous lady who's arranging this amazing stuff tonight. I've got a little map actually to show people. This is what you've been working on, isn't it?
Yes.
We've got the, let's have a look. Where's the map of, oh, where is the map gone? But not all is lost. Map. I can find the map. I had it earlier, so I don't know why it's gone now. Hang on a minute. So the way you do it, your map looks actually quite mad because it's got kind of dots all over the place, hasn't it?
And it's moved on since I sent that to you yesterday, Tony. It's now, we've got just in Scotland alone, in terms of the number of people that have sent in postcodes, we're over 400 just in Scotland. And I've still got 3,500 people that I need to send in their postcodes. So it's unreal how I think we need something to look forward to.
Yeah.
It's been long and hard lockdown, and you know, I can't speak for everybody, but certainly my horse has kept me sane. Being able to get out, see him, ride him, see people. And if it wasn't for him, we'd be probably bankrupt with the wine bill.
You speak for yourself. So, ladies and gentlemen, can we have a big round of applause here, because Sophie Robinson is doing the most amazing thing here. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And if you want to support Sophie, where can they go?
So we're building a website, but initially the place to go is on Facebook, and it's the Great Horses for Health Relay 2021. Join us there, and we'll happily accept anyone from any walk of life, any persuasion. The more the merrier.
Well, Kelly's putting in our postcode later because she wants to be part of it. So thank you very much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, please say goodbye to Sophie. Well, I'm sure we'll stay in touch and maybe hear back on how it's doing at a later date.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Tony. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye, Sophie. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wonderful. Oh, fabulous. What an amazing thing. Amazing people in amazing times doing awesome things. We love that. If you're doing an awesome thing, an awesome equestrian thing to raise some money, then please let us know about it. We are more than happy to put it up on our platform. Right, moving on. What have I forgotten about here? What have I forgotten about here? No, we've done all that. So, do you know what? We've got Dr. David Marlin coming up soon. But before we do, let me introduce him with a little video.
Okay, David, you have to edit this bit. This section starts with the slide showing the trachea circled and some pictures of looking down the endoscope. Hi again, this is Dr. Dave with my top coronavirus tips. Yesterday we covered not touching your face, and for those of you who weren't on yesterday, didn't see yesterday's video, basically this is the solution to not touching your face. This is drawing pins super glued to gloves.
Oh, we're live! Ladies and gentlemen, we're live! That video ended sooner than I thought, and please welcome Dr. David Marlin. How are you doing, sir?
Hi. Good evening.
How are you doing this evening?
I'm okay, and the first thing I want to say is I don't understand why you're nervous. I'm sitting here thinking this will all be fine as long as he doesn't ask me about dressage, freestyle music. You know, please.
Hang on a minute. Cut. I thought that's what we were talking about.
Oh, there's been a misunderstanding.
Oh, someone didn't get the memo. Anyway, cheers. Nice to see you, David. Thank you ever so much for coming on to Equidance Live. Oh, that's a very nice nice spotty cup you've got there, sir.
It is. That's my daughter's choice in gin and tonic glasses.
So how many kids have you got at home at the moment?
We've got two. So, well, actually my son's at university in Leeds. And my daughter's studying at home, so she's at school upper six in Cambridge.
Fabulous. Oh, wow. So they're all following the academic route, are they?
Yeah, but neither of them have any interest in science. languages and English. Just no interest. I've put them off science for life.
Oh, why was that? What, just by watching your career?
No, I think it's all the experiments I did on them when they were younger.
Hey, so listen.
That one here.
Yes, of course you can. Yeah, of course you can. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. We're not after. No, we're not quite after the watershed, so we have to watch our potty mouth. But apart from that, it's all good. Listen, behind you there is a kind of. It's not a library. It's not a CD. It is a CD collection. There's all sorts of things there which kind of make you up. I just have a quick. Tell us what is behind you on the shelves and what are they? What's going on? I can see gin straight away.
Okay. Well, there's actually in the middle is my gin botanicals kit. So one of the things we did over lockdown was making our own flavoured gins. So you kind of get a kit.
Oh, how posh!
You buy a bottle of the plainest gin you can get, and then or vodka, and then you just kind of make.
Oh my goodness me!
What else? I don't know. I've got. This is my. These are the glasses my daughter bought me for one of my recent gigs.
Now we're going to talk about this in a bit because we have a mutual passion, don't we? And this is probably where we chime. Ladies and gentlemen, we both play guitar. I didn't bring my guitar in.
Didn't you? No, well, mine are over in the corner. Unfortunately, they're all acoustics or electric. Well, no, electroacoustics or electric. So there's no acoustics in this room.
But I mean, we're just going to get to know you first of all. So, we have this mutual love of guitar, and I have actually found out that you used to play in a band. And funnily enough, I have a little bit of video of his first ever gig. Here we go. Applause for that. That is the Desert Penguins. Is that right?
Yeah, we had a couple of really famous people following us at one stage, but then Chicken Dave moved to Telford.
Chicken Dave.
Yeah. Well, we all drank in the same pub in the village, and we'd been friends for like about a year and a half. And one night somebody said, "Oh, I do miss playing kind of guitar," and somebody said, "What? You play guitar?" "Yeah." "What?" "Oh yeah, I play drums." "What?" And we found that out of 5 of us, either somebody sung or played drums or played guitar.
Oh,
and,
man.
It was brilliant. But Chicken Dave was called Chicken Dave because the first time we met him, he was walking around the village. Fancy dress.
We don't need to know which village this is, ladies and gentlemen, because no one's going to move there now. Okay, so just so you're sure here, folks, this isn't going to just be a big laugh. We're just breaking the ice here, and it's mainly for me, not for David, because I'm the nervous one. So
you found stuff on YouTube. I'm nervous now.
Yes, you have no idea what's coming in. We even made a video. We made a video to ask you about it scientifically later. But first of all, let's get a bit more serious because everyone knows what you do with Equestrianism. I mean, the bare bones of what you actually get up to, and everyone is astounded by the amount of things you do. A list here, so long it's... We start at the top. I want to talk about the Animal Health Trust. How did it start? How did it pan out? What happened?
That's a really sad story for horse welfare. I mean, the Animal Health Trust started in the Second World War. It carried on after that. It had some great... It was founded by a guy called Waldridge. The Queen was a patron at one stage. Princess Anne's been involved. And Brian Singleton was the director when I joined. In fact, that's really... I mean, I didn't really start riding until I was at university, riding properly. And it was university I got in touch with, actually, Judy Harvey, who's everyone in dressage knows.
Yeah.
And I used to go riding at Judy's establishment, and I used to make up the numbers in one of the university riding clubs she used to have. And I got to know Judy, and I got to spend some time training with her as a sort of working pupil. And then I saw this opportunity at the Animal Health Trust when they were setting up this exercise physiology unit. And I think I saw it in Horse and Hound. I phoned up, said, "Look, can I come? And I'm really interested." Went up, had an interview, and got offered a PhD. and that, I was really lucky. And the AHT did so much stuff in terms of horse welfare, but not just horses, of course, cats and dogs as well. But there was, after Brian Singleton, was Andrew Higgins, and Andrew did a fantastic job in making the AHT really grow. He had the vision to sell. The AHT had these 2 sites, one outside Newmarket, one in Newmarket. Andrew had the vision to sell the site in Newmarket, move everything onto one site outside Newmarket, Landways Hall. And it grew tremendously, but I don't know, something went wrong. There was a really bad period, maybe I guess 22, 23 years ago now. A lot of top people left, either their own choice or not their own choice, and it kind of just gradually went downhill, and it's awful. In fact, I was talking to the company that's basically selling all the assets today, and they said, that's it, we have now sold everything or put it in a skip. And I think there was a picture of the Queen went for a portrait of the Queen that was in the HT went for like £1,500 or something ridiculous. It's really sad. A lot of top scientists, people like Richard Newton. Richard has played such a fundamental role in protecting our horses against not just the current infectious diseases like strangles and influenza, but the emerging equine diseases, the exotic diseases like West Nile, blue tongue. So we need to know that these people are going to be able to find jobs and not be lost from the roles that they've been fulfilling for 20, 30 years.
So then, obviously more recently you got involved with the National Equine Welfare Council. Does that role kind of cross over with that? Is there some...
It's interesting that Nuke is more, the AHT would have been, part of, or should have been part of Nuke. Nuke is kind of really an attempt to bring all the different bodies that are stakeholders in equine welfare together. And I'm still learning about my role. But I think I'm in that very fortunate position where I don't have to worry too much about what I say. I don't have to think too carefully that I'm going to upset a sponsor or a funding body, or I do upset people. People do say I'm a bit Marmite, but I kind of I like to think I'm able to say what I feel and what I think is best for horses. And of course, you can't please everyone all the time. Whatever you say will upset somebody.
Well, you're in that area, aren't you? I mean, it's such a delicate area, and people have really strong views about a lot of the things you research and what you've done. People have strong views, and it's hard, isn't it? Sometimes, especially on social media, we all know what people can be like on social media, but they're behind a keyboard and they're like, you don't know who I am. Bam, 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 bam. How'd you cope with that?
Well, actually, I did 3 years of psychology at university. So I went to a Scottish university, and the great thing about Scottish universities is that actually, because it's a 4-year degree to account for the difference between the English and the Scottish education systems at effectively A level, you have this fantastic opportunity to study a lot more subjects in a lot more depth. So effectively, I almost think I've got a degree in psychology.
Right.
So I am interested in human behaviour, and we have done research in that area, and particularly looking at horse owners compared to other similar demographics. And it's quite interesting. But the first thing I always look at on social media is, okay, somebody makes a really rude, nasty comment. My first instinct is, okay, I don't know what this person's going through. They could have just had a death in the family. They could have mental health issues. They could be very drunk. I don't immediately tend to think this is somebody who's really nasty. And of course, we all know there are, unfortunately, there's a few nasty people out there. But, the majority of people who want to interact on social media aren't nasty people. Everyone's struggling with their demons, especially now during COVID. we just published another one of our surveys, and we asked about mental health specifically amongst equestrians, and 73% said their mental health has suffered because of coronavirus pandemic.
I'm one of them.
Yeah, I think we all have in different ways. And I think people who say they haven't suffered, either very lucky or very resilient.
It's a strange time that we live in at the moment, David, as you know. And we have lots of other things to cover about the history. But as you've touched on that, can you talk to me about your work at the moment that you're doing with coronavirus, maybe with diagnostic and with the psychological side of things?
Okay. Well, on the coronavirus side, this is quite interesting because it didn't start out like that. About 22 years ago, a Danish, entrepreneur called Helle Funck Nielsen came to me at the Animal Health Trust and said, I've invented this spacer for delivering inhaled medication to horses. And she said, I've looked around and vets are using baby halers. And she said, I have a little bit of a knowledge of drug delivery systems. I've worked in human sort of healthcare and pharma. And she said, this can't be right. The resistance and the volume that you have in a device to give medication to a child can't be the same as what you would design for a horse.
Interesting.
And I said, no, I think you're right. I agree. And she said, okay, well, look, this is what I've made. What do you think? And I said, I think it's good. I think we should do some on-bench tests and some calculations and maybe make some adjustments. But then we tested this out and we did one of the first kind of lung deposition studies with proper radio labeled, almost probably done to human standards. And out of that came some new techniques for how we can correct for radio labeled deposition in the horse's lungs. There was some really interesting IP. But Helle actually saw some of the other stuff I was doing, which was looking at exhaled breath markers as non-invasive indicators of disease. And she said, oh, that's interesting. I'd be interested in, doing some work with that. So actually, we started a project, and that has led over 20 years to the development of two projects now, or two products. The first one is a device called the InflammaCheck, which measures hydrogen peroxide in the breath, but it's not just quite as simple as stick it on, measure it.
Yeah.
It's one of these things that's affected by temperature, humidity, flow rate, all sorts of different things, and lots of people have tried to do it and have failed, and we've actually got a working system. But coronavirus has given us an opportunity to take that technology forward into a different device for a different purpose, and we now have a device that we can almost 100% detect active coronavirus exhalation in people down to an incredibly low level with sort of 100% sensitivity and specificity in about 3 minutes.
That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. Oh, it's amazing.
I'm really excited by it. I think we've had so many different, particularly within the UK, we've had government bodies asking about, is this practical? Could this be used to screen people going into restaurants, sports stadiums, doctors' practices, etc.? So that's really exciting to be involved in that type of work.
So that's a right now science that you're involved in. And believe you me, ladies and gentlemen, this man is involved in an awful lot of science. So let's go right back. Let's go back to the racing. Let's go back right to the racing, the studies with racing. That I found, I've done a bit of digging, and that was fascinating. Tell me about what your involvement was with the racing and how that happened.
Well, I almost think a lot of these things were kind of a little bit of luck and being in the right place at the right time. You do, and people say you do make your own luck, and to some extent, I believe putting yourself in the right position and doing the right things is good. But there is always a little bit you can't control. But so the work I was doing at the Animal Health Trust, I got to know Peter Rossdale, of course, famous Rossdale and Partners. And Peter was incredibly supportive with me in the early stage of my career. He's like such a fantastic mind. He was always asking questions and always, coming up with hypotheses and stuff. And Luca Kumani was really interested in exercise physiology and how it could be applied in a practical sense. And Peter said, look, would this be something of interest to you? And I said, I jumped at the chance to be working in a yard of like 200 racehorses.
Yeah, sure.
And that was for me a fantastic opportunity, because up until that point I'd been in and out of racing yards in Newmarket. I actually worked with Clive Britton on transport protocols for a really famous horse called Pebbles, who went to race in the States.
Yeah.
But the opportunity to go and work in a yard and to see and understand what goes on and work with elite horses. And I was really lucky in that I got to work with Kayazi, who won the Derby. And I also played football with Frankie Dettori.
Hang on a minute. You're much taller than Frankie Dettori, right?
Yeah, and can you guess what position Frankie used to like playing?
Goalie?
Yeah, absolutely.
No! I got that one.
And he had gloves that were like this, huge gloves. But do you know what? Frankie, nobody knew who Frankie was when he arrived in the yard. And the real irony ended up being that one of his sons and my son were at nursery together, and then they didn't really see each other for another 12, 13 years, and then they ended up all going to the same parties together again. So it's kind of it's a small world.
It is a small world. I don't know if you know, but Kelly, my wife, used to do a little company called Races to Riders. Just when we met, and we had this wonderful yard on top of the Mendips, and basically we go and pick up the rubbish racers, the 4 or 5 year olds who just couldn't run, and instead of anything terrible happening to them, they'd come to us, and she would retrain them and find out what they loved doing and find a home for them. It was called Races to Riders back in the time, and so we met a lot of trainers back then. But also in my history, my cousin, her husband was head lad at Martin Pipe's stables back in the day as well. So we have it's funny, isn't it? You meet all these people and all these, and I had nothing to do with dressage back then, really. But hey, so let's move on. After the racing, I mean, look, you've done so many things nationally and internationally. Team GBR, how did that come about?
Well, that's an interesting one. So with the Atlanta Olympics is kind of really probably started my involvement with elite sport. I mean, I'd always been interested in elite, in all equestrian sport, really. And when I was at university, one of my girlfriends and I went round Europe to the European Eventing Championships. God, was that Frauenfeld? I don't
know. Can I just pick you up on that? One of my girlfriends. How many did you have at the time?
Oh, only 2.
Oh, that's fine then. Okay, carry on.
Well, no, only one at a time.
All right. No. I told you should be nervous.
Yeah. I'm getting to see how you operate. So
Sorry, please carry on. This is important.
That's all right. So, and actually, for me, probably, as I say, the intro into elite sport was separate to racing, was through the Atlanta Olympic project. And if I can tell you a little story about how that happened.
Please do.
Well, this is just, again, this is like being in the right place at the right time and not necessarily knowing what you're doing. So we used to have these weekly group meetings of the physiology group, and it was headed up by a guy called David Snow, who he headed the AHT physiology group at the time. Again, David was a vet, Australian vet, fantastic scientist, great mind, sometimes challenging personality, but
is that diplomatic? That's a diplomatic statement right there, isn't it?
Yeah, I can tell you a story about.
No, do that privately.
You wouldn't mind me telling, but we had this meeting, and it'd been going on for about 2-3 hours, and this was 1990. Let's see, where are we? Late 1992. So after the Barcelona Olympics, when there'd been all the problems, where everyone had seen on TV these collapsed horses and retired horses, and David Snow said, "Oh, we've got this memo from the FEI about heat and humidity and the Atlanta Olympics. Somebody needs to pick this up and look into it." And so it kind of like just sat on the table, and nobody was going to move. and I was actually really, really hungry. So in the end, I said, "Oh, it's fine, I'll take it." And actually, I didn't look at it for about 10 days. And then when I did, I sort of started to do searches for, well, okay, surely we know loads about heat and humidity in horses, don't we? Oh, we don't. There's no papers. There's nothing. Seriously? So that was how I got into the Atlanta Olympics and the heat and humidity research. But through that, I kind of got involved with endurance through Rod Fisher and Sarah Coombs, Ian Williams, who, of course, headed up the FEI endurance department for many years. I was the team trainer for Team GB Endurance when they won a silver medal at the World Championships in 2002, Compiègne in France. And again, through this, I got involved with when John McEwen set up the BEF Scientific Advisory Group. John invited me to be one of the founder members. I left in about 2011 because of kind of other work pressures and commitments and potential conflicts of interest because of private clients who were in different teams. But I rejoined about probably 4 or 5 years ago. So the BEF Scientific Advisory Group is the other members are, for example, Pat Harris from Waltham, Dr. Russell McKechnie-Guire, who you know probably from Centaur Biomechanics, Colin Roberts, who was at the AHT, Rachel Murray, who was also at the AHT. Right. In fact, Kat Harris was at the AHT. So most people on SAG actually are ex Animal Health Trust. But it's kind of like a think tank where we come up with ideas that we think will benefit British teams and elite performance. And we get funded to do research which does benefit at that level, but usually that will trickle down into supporting all levels of people, particularly who are competing.
That's fabulous. Now, you talk about heat and humidity. We have a crossover there, don't we, between my family and yourself? Because, of course, I don't know if anyone knows, but Mrs. Equidance is actually a bit of an expert with thermology too, thermographic imaging, digital thermology imaging. And tell us a little bit, just so we know. So it's absolutely transparent. We didn't plan having you on the show because of this, but explain how you're helping Kelly out at the moment.
No, that's true. I mean, it's funny. So I've been, aware of Kelly's interest in thermography. I've used thermography in different research for, well, again, probably 25 years. In fact, thermography was used a lot in the initial Atlanta research to look at the efficacy of cooling horses. Yeah. And in fact, we've been using it recently to try and educate people because in Atlanta, everyone suddenly got the idea and everyone followed the ideas. But over kind of 96, what is it? Jesus, that's 96, 2006, 25 years, that it's kind of just worn off a little bit. And we had a little bit of a scare in Tryon because people didn't really take the climate seriously in Tryon. And there were a lot of horses that just about got away with it because we found people didn't acclimatise their horses before they went or when they were there. Yeah. But thermal imaging is something that we've been using. We used at the test event in, it's now 2019. The Tokyo Olympics test event, we actually looked at the feasibility of using thermal imaging to see whether we could predict horses that were at risk of heat stroke. Wow. And intervene early with appropriate protocols with stewards and with the Veterinary Commission. And this was a long shot, but actually in a hot environment, thermal imaging of the whole horse body actually is a good indicator of whether they're overheating or not. And of course, Kelly has an interest in thermography.
And a master's degree in it already.
Well, and I've ended up being invited to be on Kelly's PhD supervisory panel with Dr. Jane Williams and Dr. Gillian Tabor from Hartbury. And,
Kelly's actually, she is a great student. She's one of those people who's always going to be pushing the boundaries and saying, right, what if, I don't understand this. How do we do this? And it's great, and that's what you need to be in a PhD student. You need to be inquiring, and you need to be able to want to push the knowledge and technology forward.
Yeah, I have a feeling you're probably going to be working together for many years to come.
Yeah, we're all kind of, it's a nice team of people, and we're really excited about what she's about to embark. Well, she is not about to embark on.
But she is
already embarked on.
And for me, I just get to be married to Dr. Hot.
She's sitting behind. Is Kelly sitting behind you?
Yeah, she's there. Look.
Here, Dave.
Hi.
Mrs. Equidance is in the background. I don't have a second camera. I should have a Mrs. Equidance camera actually that I could switch to. That'd be no. She's in her pajamas. That would be not a very good idea. So listen, all this stuff with horses, your science goes deeper than that. I hear on the grapevine that you've been working with the military.
Yeah, I spent a few years working for a company that was measuring physiological parameters on soldiers. From the perspective of welfare and fatigue, and things that actually we don't like to talk about, which is kind of things called dead or alive algorithms.
Okay.
There's lots of nasty stuff, unfortunately, goes on in military. A lot of it actually filters back into medicine and everyday life, but the military have big budgets to do research, and I was involved in physiological monitoring of soldiers. That actually also transpired that then got applied to Formula One drivers. So
no way. Now there we go. That's my sport.
Well,
I love watching Formula One.
Well, I have data on a driver who had a particularly nasty crash. I'm not allowed to say who it is,
for sure.
But and of course, there's lots of nasty crashes. But the really interesting thing about this driver is, as he was driving around this circuit, like 200 miles an hour, his heart rate's up at 180. He then has this crash where the car starts to flip and roll, and what we see him do is he goes, and his heart rate actually drops.
Wow.
He just says, "Oh, I can't do anything else. Okay, sit and wait for it to happen." And that was phenomenal. I'd never seen that before. But apparently this isn't uncommon in highly trained people highly motivated, highly trained, highly prepared people. And I was talking to this about this actually with Charlie Unwin, and Charlie said he's seen the same response as well. And I wonder if it happens with some event riders when they come to a fence and they know they're going, and they go, okay.
Well, do you know what? That is fascinating, but I'm going to lighten the tone a little bit, because we've just been talking about military and death and Formula One crashes. So we've been doing a little bit of research ourselves on perspiration and with hat-wearing people. And we've made a little video, and I think we've come up with a new product that everyone's going to love called Sani Hat, and here it is.
Are you tired of having a riding hat that smells like a wet dog's rear end? Are you sick of feeling self-conscious about your cancer-induced dewy scalp appearance? Well, we have the answer with our revolutionary new embarrassment-saving product from Equitart, Sani Hat. Sani Hat gives you, the rider, the freedom to express yourself wholeheartedly on the track or in the arena without having to endure those crippling hat removal blues. Equitart scientists have developed patented scum-sucking technology to bring you Sani Hat, the ultimate follicular sanitary solution. Simply line your hemispherical ground negotiator with one of our cutting-edge Equi-Anything approved clinical pads, and all of your cranial fungal issues will be a thing of the past. Available in 3 different sizes to suit your period of exercise, Sani Hat will give you the choices you deserve as a confident, beautiful and fragrant donkey jockey. Sani Hat. Don't be a minger this summer. And now, Sanny Hat brings you Sanny Hat Super Snug. If you suffer with unfortunate pea-head syndrome, simply pop a few of our space-reducing Sanny Super Pads under your brow and revel in the knowledge that floppy hat issues are resolved in an instant. Terms and conditions apply. Available on eBay or your local specialist equi-chemist. Sanny Hat will not be held responsible for injury, rash, death caused by the use of this product.
So there we go. I think we're on a bit of a winner there. What do you think, Dr. David Marlin?
Well, I think if I knew you were going to do that, I probably wouldn't have come on tonight. No, do you know, the real irony is, when we do studies on horses where we collect sweat, do you know what we use to collect the sweat?
Sanitary pads or nappies?
Absolutely. So we tape them onto the horses'
Are you saying we didn't know that?
You sure?
Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe it's just comedy. So this is like perspiratory thermodynamics of the scapular region. That's my science.
Well, of course, for me, you know, it is a problem. I often want to underneath my baseball cap the lack of the lack of keratinized proteins to absorb the perspiration on my cranium.
Anyway, listen, let's move on. There is some fantastic new studies that you've been doing that everyone wants to hear about saddles and stirrups. So start me slowly and tell me about what this is all about.
Okay. Well, about a couple of years ago, I was looking for some data on the forces that go through stirrups.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find any. I thought, this is a bit odd. And especially during show jumping. So I got to, I was talking to somebody who actually had done some research with before, Harriet Philip Martin, and we basically set up a little study. In fact, this is how slow sometimes research is. That paper's actually just been published, like literally this week.
Wow.
But I've also been looking at stirrup forces with Russell McKechnie-Guire of Centaur Biomechanics and Mark Fisher of Allcroft Saddlery. We're all interested in the same area, you know, the horse-saddle rider interaction. And Russell, Mark and I have just completed a very big study looking at the interaction of stirrup and rein tension and saddle pressures. But I've also been working with a company that's been trying to develop a novel tree because one of the problems we have with saddles is when you go into a 2-point position, it doesn't matter whether you're on a treeless, a half tree, a full tree, a flexible tree, any tree. The problem is the physics mean that you can only spread the forces over so much area.
Right.
And the smaller the area you focus a force over, the higher the pressure.
Yeah, of course.
Because pressure is force divided by area. So what we've been looking to do is seeing how we can actually spread those forces more evenly. You can't prevent there being any force on the horse's back. That's impossible. But what you can do is ensure that it's as low as possible and as even as possible. And that's been the challenge in trying to do this, is we need new technology in saddles, because there really hasn't been that much advance in saddles. You know, okay, I'm going to upset. This is where I upset people. But you know, I've done my homework. I've looked at what's published. I've looked at the patents. There isn't really anything that solves the problem for us at the moment, and that's what I've been working with, trying to look at is, and it's not just about simply going straight to a product. What we've been interested in is trying to understand more about injuries, trying to understand about problems horses have, trying to understand, you know, how we might understand better how the horse's back moves, because one of the real problems is we don't know how the horse's back moves under the saddle. That's one of the holy grails for researchers, is to understand what's going on. In fact, we have a very poor understanding of how the horse's back moves as a whole when there's no saddle on it. Now, you know, we can put markers on, but there is new technology that we've been using to image how the horse's back moves during different gaits, and then the next stage is trying to understand how the saddle impacts that. And again, Russell McKechnie-Guire has done a huge amount of work in this area that's really taken knowledge forward, and it's one of the reasons I think Russell and I ended up coming together, not just through our role in world class, but also we have this shared research interest as well, in understanding that horse rider saddle whole interaction, because it's one of the most complex systems that you can get. We've got the head movement, we've got the gait, we've got the four limbs, we've got the thoracic changes, we've got the muscles of the horse, we've got the rider position, rider laterality, saddle pad. It's just an amazing system and incredibly complex.
Wow, you've actually got me quite excited about it there. You heard it here first, Science and Tony. Well, mate, that is actually quite something. But also, let's not forget that Dr. David Marlin, of course, was a rider himself back in the day. So just winding it back, you were actually a rider. You did some dressage, you did some eventing.
Rider, okay. So here's the rider scale. Like, this is the top. This is kind of Mary King, William Fox-Pitt, Mark Todd, Carl, Charlotte. I'm just going.
Well, no, that's okay, because I'm like ready. I'm ready. I don't ride. So at least you can qualify what you're saying with the fact that you actually have ridden. And I did have some photos of you riding, but I didn't put them on the other system. But wonderful photos of when you first rode when you were about 3 years old on the back of a saddle, and then when you did some eventing and even some dressage. So hats off to you, excuse the pun. But yeah, fantastic. You did actually ride, so you know what you're talking about.
I'm not so sure. I'm just fortunate that there weren't mobile phones around when I was riding, because there'd be some really embarrassing footage around.
Hey, look, let's move forward to some questions. We've got some questions from the audience. We'll keep it brief tonight. Obviously, we've already spent a lot of time talking about some amazing things that you've done, but I've got some quite in-depth questions. First question is this.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for everything. And Dr. David Marlin, what a star you are. Thank you so much. My question for you, sir, is regarding the DEFRA ruling that's coming out regarding transit of animals in extreme weathers. So they're basically saying that you're not allowed to travel your horses in anything under 5 degrees Celsius, which for up here is tropical. But anyway, and also in the heat, anything over 30 degrees Celsius, you're not allowed to travel your horses, unless, I suppose, if you've got climate control fitted or in your horse area in your truck, then you're okay, you're off the hook. I just wanted to know what your thoughts were regarding this. I know you've done an awful lot of research with your endurance. So yeah, I'd love to hear your views. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
There we go, the fabulous Kate Morris there asking a question about the new DEFRA ruling. What do you know about this and what's your take on it?
Well, I'm really pleased Kate brought this up, actually, because this is a major issue. I have been involved in quite a bit of different transport research. And in fact, also the transport is an integral part of getting horses to the Olympics safely. And in fact, or any horses that travel, one of the things we have an issue with when horses spend long periods with limited ability to put their head down, as in transport, is the increased risk of shipping fever, and that's pneumonia. When you get over kind of 10, 12 hours of transport, that risk starts to really take off. So it's something we're really concerned about, and there are multiple factors involved. It's head position, it's hydration status, it's air quality, it's pre-existing bacteria that are present in the respiratory tract that are not necessarily causing problems. So it's a really important part of how we move horses to competitions. I was also involved in a major project for World Horse Welfare which was looking at trying to provide evidence to the European Commission for reducing transport duration for horses going to slaughter, which is a massive welfare issue, with horses being either fattened specifically in Poland and put in effectively really grossly obese horses on lorries for 3 days to take them to Italy, or horses that were being pulled in from Romania and Russia into Europe and then transported 3 days, so horses in terrible condition before they started. So we had either horses that were obese and had never been transported in their life, going for 3 days, and we had horses that were injured, sick, being transported for 3 days, and we don't know what their transport previous history was. So I have a fair bit of experience. In fact, I was involved with the DEFRA consultation originally on what thermal envelopes, and that just means temperature ranges, sorry, once a scientist.
No, it's okay. Even I got that. Thermal envelope is okay.
Okay. So lower temperature, higher temperature. And that's what this DEFRA new document is about. And so I was a bit surprised when I saw this come out, because having written the advice to DEFRA on the first consultation maybe 10 years ago, I'm kind of now thinking I obviously didn't do a very good job, or I didn't give the right answer, because I didn't get consulted on this second one. There's a little bit of concern about some of the academics and others with experience in transport. In fact, I recently had contact with Don Broom, who's done a huge amount of research in mainly farm animal transport. Don used to be professor of, well, he was professor of something, was it animal behaviour, I think, at University of Cambridge. And a really top guy, knows his stuff completely. But Don recently contacted me about this. I've had discussions with DEFRA, with BEF, with FEI, with pretty much with World Horse Welfare, pretty much everyone. But there are some concerns about who is providing this information, because even on some of the other species, it appears that these aren't the people you would immediately think to go to. Oh. So I've been feeding in my thoughts to a lot of different stakeholders in this, including RSPCA. But this document doesn't really make sense. When you're talking about thermal envelopes, what are we talking about? Are we talking age? Are we talking body condition? Are we talking about whether they're clipped or not? Are we talking about breed? It's not that simple, and it really hasn't been that well thought out, and it's going to cause problems. It doesn't, to me, make a lot of sense, and I think it needs some serious redrafting, and hopefully, all the stakeholders that have the ability to request that review, such as that should be listened to, such as Beaver, such as World Horse Welfare, RSPCA, will be listened to, and hopefully we'll get something that's sensible.
Well, let's hope so. And thank you, Kate, for that question. And I hope that answered some of it. Of course, Dr. David Marlin's always available if you need to message him directly. He's very good at getting back to you. Let's have a look at the next question. This is here.
Hi guys, please excuse the hat hair, but I'm sure that's a concept we're all very familiar with. I've got a quick-ish question on cribbing and crib biters. So a few years ago, I watched the NEF 19 conference and a talk in particular by Dr. David Andrew Hemmings, where he was researching the reasons why horses crib bite and their learning behaviours. But in short, it appears that the crib biting behaviour is a trigger in the brain as a result of overactive opioid receptors producing dopamine, which, say, results in the horses crib biting. And he alluded to if the horses were given an opioid blocker, then the cribbing stopped immediately. Now, obviously, we can't go around giving our horses naloxone or any other opioid blocker. But if it's a case that the crib biting is caused by something in the brain, why are all cribbing supplements targeted at the stomach, stomach acid and things like that? So why is it all concentrated in that area? I've tried nearly all of them on the market and none of them have worked on my horse. So my question is there anything on the market that actually can reduce the cribbing behaviour other than things like Cribox being painted on? So not a physical preventative, but something that can actually reduce the behaviour. Thank you.
Well, what an interesting question there, and quite an in-depth question.
Yeah.
How are you going to cope with that one? That's a tough one. Cribbing. I mean, it's the age-old question, isn't it? What do you do?
Yeah, and it's made me think. It's cribbing. Well, any of the stereotypical behaviours are pretty distressing, I find, to look at. And head shaking isn't a stereotypical behaviour, but head shaking to me really distresses me.
Yeah.
Seeing horses do that. In fact, that's one of my areas of interest of research with Dr. Kirsty Pickles. We've got some really exciting new research in that area where we're trying to characterise head shaking over long periods of time to see how badly horses are doing it. Because that's one of the problems with head shaking, is that it's often intermittent. Sorry, going off topic, but no, I mean, cribbing, box walking, wind sucking, these are really not nice behaviours to see, and these are not necessarily things obviously want our horses to be doing. For me, the stereotypical behaviour is still a bit like where we were with tying up maybe 25 years ago, before Pat Harris's PhD. Pat Harris, Stephanie Valberg, in particular Richard Piercy at the RVC, have done a fantastic amount of work in taking these muscle-related conditions forward and getting us to understand where some horses have a genetic predisposition. Some of them, it's caused by, for example, it can be caused by electrolyte deficiencies, imbalances. It can be the result of viral infection. It's a really difficult, it's a syndrome rather than a single disease condition. And I think this is where we are probably with head shaking. And what's interesting, yes, there are horses where pain may be the trigger, I think, for head shaking. For crib biting.
Yeah.
I think, the stomach acid targeting and saying, oh, well, if they're uncomfortable, they're going to crib bite. Well, there may be some evidence for that, but if we look at the literature on crib biting, it's very conflicting. It's not that everyone's agreeing and saying, well, I did this study and I found this, and yes, I did this. I did something similar and I found the same as you. It's not. People are finding different things. One thing that might be interesting. Sorry, I forgot the lady's name who asked.
It was. Oh, I can't remember. I haven't got it written down. How embarrassing!
I was going to say
it came up on the video. I'm so sorry.
No, that's my fault.
I think it was Dawn James, wasn't it? Yeah, I think it was Dawn James. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Dawn. So there was one study which is actually quite old now, 1998, by a group in Germany who looked at endorphin levels, and also they looked at serotonin levels in horses that were crib biting. And what they found was that crib biters had a 3 times higher basal level of beta endorphin.
Yeah.
And there was a trend for lower basal serotonin levels. So you may not necessarily want to block opioids based on that. If you block opioids, you're going to drop the serotonin even lower. It is really conflicting. There are so many different studies and parts of the jigsaw that seem to not fit together. So I think we do need we need more research and understanding of this. I'm still not sure how common it is. I think it's just made me think we really should be doing some more up-to-date surveys on the frequency, the prevalence of stereotypical behaviour in the horse industry, amongst horses in the horse population.
Well, there we go, Dawn. Hopefully that question was something that, there's not an answer, is there? Right yet, there's not an answer.
I know, but if I had a horse that was crib biting, it's difficult. Once it started, there may have been a trigger. Let's say gastric discomfort was a trigger that triggered a horse that had the predisposition to become a crib biter, and it was gastric discomfort. You know, if you get it early, maybe then you can stop it or reduce it. But the problem is, once it's started, then you've got a learned behavior that once you take the stimulus away, so you treat the horse for gastric discomfort, but it still repeats the behavior. And I've seen this with dogs, with anyone who's got kind of maybe Labradors, Golden Retrievers, the dogs that chew their paws. They get incredibly inflamed. You go to the vet, you get steroids. The dog then responds. You can see the skin gets better, but the dog keeps chewing its feet because it's a behavior, a habit that's...
I bite my nails. You know what I mean?
Steroids probably won't work on you. I mean, gloves might.
But it's a habit. It's not something that I intend to do. It's a habit, isn't it? And I don't know what stimulus started that, but I guess it's similar, not being the scientist. Should we put another question on that point? Here we go. Another question. This is here.
Hi, I have a question. It's regarding to feed a young, rising 4-year-old horse in light progressive work to meet its nutritional needs with regards to top line, muscle development, protein requirements, vitamins and minerals, without really going down the truly commercial route of processed feeds containing a lot of soya husks, molasses, wheat feed, bran, etc. And again, without sending them off their rocker at the same time. But there's a lot of nutritional advice out there from feed companies, but clearly they're going to recommend their own products. Thank you.
Clearly they're going to recommend their own products. That's the kind of thing that rings true, isn't it? So, yeah, what do you think about that question?
That's kind of like the longest question to answer in the world. But it's a brilliant question, because how do horse owners know what advice to follow? I think if you, as a horse owner, always start with, well, if I go to a company, they're going to try and recommend a product to me. You know, I shouldn't be surprised if I come out of the phone call with them saying, oh, your horse needs this feed and this vitamin and mineral and this from our range. But of course, you can do it on straights. You know, you can do it on individual ingredients. So what would be my top advice? My top advice is to buy good hay. Good hay, absolutely, or good pasture is the basis of your horse's health. There's no doubt about it. That's the first thing. And it's such a cliche amongst people who work in nutrition. But, you know, when we go to look at horses, I'd say 60-70% of the time I'm not happy with the forage management. So that's the first thing. The second thing is aim for a slightly lower or absolutely spot on average body condition score. Don't let your horse get well covered. You will have more problems from a well covered horse than you will from a slightly undercovered horse.
Oh, right.
I promise you. So no need to force development by feeding in loads of energy or protein. The problem is any of the recommendations you see from a commercial company are a starting point. So when it says feed 3 kilos of this, we could, if we actually look at a group of horses on 3 kilos of this feed, all of the same age, same breed, same activity, there will be half of them I probably want to put on half that amount, a third I might want to put on more than that amount, and some of them I don't want to put on at all. So always consider what it says on the bag as the average, the starting point, and your horse may well not be average. If you want to go for, the minimum for a young horse, I would say it's a vitamin and mineral supplement and maybe a small amount of good quality protein. And here we are talking a small amount. Again, if you don't want to go down the route of something like soya, linseed is something I've always worked with. I really don't find that I get many problems with linseed. It's a great source of protein, good source of energy as well, and maybe a little bit of salt in the diet as well. But what I've been trying to encourage people to do more recently is to use software like Feed Excel and actually put in your own diet in and see what your diet is, because Feed Excel will give you a really good assessment of whether your horse's diet is adequate or not in terms of different vitamin and mineral levels.
Where can people find this? Is that an app?
Feed Excel is it's a software, online software.
Right.
You can, I think, subscribe from as little as £15 for one horse for 1 month to do a basic diet. You'll probably fairly soon find you want to do, a little bit more advanced, where it will give you things like iron and zinc and copper. But do it yourself. Don't listen to what necessarily the feed companies are telling you. Do your own evaluation. In fact, on my website, I have a little video tutorial for people of how to do this themselves. And the other point of it is,
can you share that with us later? We'll put it on Equidance.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But look at your horse. If it's saying feed 3 kilos of this feed for this level of work, and your horse is losing weight, well, 3 kilos isn't enough.
Right. Sure.
Okay, first thing you do is make sure you have enough forage, increase the forage if it's not ad lib. But you have to deal with what's in front of you. You can't just use these common sense values. In fact, Hika Decker, who I think is now Hika Brown, who was at Hartbury, we did a research project funded by Spillers, and we found that for horses on the same level of work, same type of horse, same age, same breed, same sex, doing the same work, some horses required twice as much energy as others to maintain body weight. And that's to do with the efficiency of their gastrointestinal system to get the energy out of their food. So
fascinating.
Don't think you always have to follow exactly what's on the bag.
There we go. Don't think always you've got to follow what's on the bag. I've got a written question here from Catherine Boyd. So what inspired you to take on false advertising for equestrian products, and how? Sorry, I can't read it. Sorry, Kelly wrote it down.
How he handles the inevitable backlash from the companies involved.
Oh, right. So what inspired you to take on false advertising? Oh yes, of course. You are the knight with a advertising. How do you handle the inevitable backlash from the companies involved? Great question, Catherine Boyd. Thank you.
Yeah, that is an interesting one. Do you know? I don't really know the answer, and I do it. What motivates? One is that I think what worries me is if a horse owner sees something that promises a solution to a problem they have. Everyone out there pretty much is trying to do the best for their horses.
Of course.
And often vets, nutritionists, scientists often don't have the answer, don't know immediately. But a company can walk along and say, oh no, they don't know what they're talking about. Oh, we've done this, we've produced this, it's absolutely fantastic. We guarantee it will cure your horse of laminitis, and your horse will never have laminitis again. They can they really shouldn't be able to get away with that, because that is giving people false hope. It sometimes is delaying horse owners seeking the right support for the problem they're trying to manage. And I've got loads and loads of horrendous stories from people who have been told, oh no, don't go to your vet for that. We've got this, try this. And the horse ended up being euthanized a week later, because it had let's say a strangulating, colic, impaction colic. So I've seen so many horrendous things go on. I've seen people ripped off and lost loads of money. I don't think it's fair that companies can flout the law and mislead consumers. Do you know what? If it's a placebo, then if you know it's a placebo, then you can make an informed choice. So I believe in static magnets. I have seen no evidence that static magnets do anything for horses. I have seen no evidence for this from work I've done, work others have done, in any species. I do not believe in static magnets. That's completely different to pulsed electromagnetic field. If once you know that, you still want to use static magnets, that's fine by me. I really don't mind. If you like the colour of the colour, I don't mind paying £200 for a pair of boots with magnets in. That's absolutely fine. But I won't give you a hard time if you've made that choice. But don't come back to me and say, you're wrong, it does work. I know it doesn't work. I'm convinced it doesn't work. You may be convinced it does. We can have a different opinion. But for the people who don't know and sit in the middle, they can make a choice. You know, if a joint supplement's got 3 grams of glucosamine in, based on all our knowledge, that is unlikely to do anything.
Yeah.
If you know it's got 3 grams of glucosamine in, and you know that's unlikely to do anything, you can then make an informed choice. So I think that's what, you know, where I come from is I don't mind what people do, and I don't want to control what people do, but I want them to have the opportunity to have good advice to make good decisions.
I mean, there are so many things out there, so many things. And I've discovered this over the last 8 years of knowing horses since I met Kelly, where people are coming in saying, no, what we do is fantastic. They've got this new product. It's amazing. Looks wonderful. It does this, whatever. And, you know, they've got the ultimate solution. But, you know, it has to be backed in science, right?
Well, I think it has to be backed in evidence because, you know, Mary from Crawley saying, you know, it worked on her horse isn't evidence. It's an anecdote. And apologies to if there's anyone on here.
Called Mary from Crawley. Sorry, Mary.
I know. I wasn't talking to you specifically, Mary. Sorry. I just, yeah, it's just, you know, what you spend £200 on a pair of magnetic boots, you could spend £200 on your vet or £200 on your physio. Yeah.
So physios, I mean, there's some really good physios out there now, aren't there?
Yeah, and they're getting better and better. You know, they're working as a group now. You know, I don't want to say they're scary. They're actually brilliant.
Brilliant, yeah.
You know, they really are well organised, and the stuff that they are doing in research and clinical practice, boundaries of what we can do. Using new technology, like, I mean, one of the companies I've worked with is Equidance Saddle Clips, and that's not a, well, you can say it's an advert. I don't get any money from saying Equidance Saddle Clips, but it's a product I've used. We used it at the test event in Tokyo to see what the riders were doing before they travelled to Tokyo and when they were there looking at their training to give us better insight. You know, Equidance is a brilliant product, and it's you know, it's something that physios can use. It's something that owners can use, but it tells us about what the horse is, how much time to spend on the road, how many walk-trot transitions did you do, etc., etc. And it helps us to get a much better picture of what's going on and makes, if we make interventions, we can see objectively whether that's actually made an improvement or not. So the technology field is you know, something else that's blown up in the last 20 years as well.
Well, I kind of think from talking to you, we're actually near the beginning of where we need to be with this kind of science, and you're and championing these new technologies and taking on the old stigmas, and this is a good thing, right?
Yeah, it is, and I don't know. Not everyone likes, you know, when companies advert and say, look, this is rubbish. But you know what? That is my professional opinion. I don't get sued for it because it's true. What I say is accurate. I'm not saying don't buy the product. I'm saying I wouldn't buy the product, and I'm saying this doesn't make sense. You know, it was a company last week was what were they were claiming compression. Their compression wear would improve muscular recovery in horses below the hock, because this is where it fitted. Well, horses don't have any muscle below the hock, so how's that going to work? And all I'm doing is pointing that out to people in case people haven't realised that. Last year we had a product from Australia claiming that it was more effective at cooling horses than using cold water. So, and it wasn't. Absolutely, it's not 100%. You can come and take my house if it's more important. But what the danger there is, if people believe that and they've got a horse with heat stress and they say, no, don't use cold water, use this cloth, and that horse is going to be dead. And again, that's what I think probably really drives me, is the damage that bad advice, misleading claims can make to horse welfare. Because owners aren't doing it on purpose. They aren't going out and buying magnetic boots because they want to harm their horse. They want to help their horse.
Yeah, of course.
And they believe they are.
And this is what I think tonight, David, and thank you so much so eloquently. Horse welfare is everything. And it's what we spoke about with Jenny last week, and it's what we've spoken about with all our trainers throughout the entire series, and this evening with Dr. David Marlin. Horse welfare is the most important thing. So moving forward, just Tracy, what can our viewers do now just to make sure their horses are in the best health? What's the best thing they can do?
Wow, there's $1 million question.
You can give me the $1 million.
Okay. I think it's, don't take everything at face value. Unfortunately, social media has been a real force for good in some ways, but a real force for bad in others. And we did an assessment of recommended treatments for sweet itch, and sarcoids. Most engine oil, toothpaste, ground up turmeric. All these things, people may think they work, but this isn't organised evidence. And that's one of the things I'm really trying to do, is empower the equestrian community with the ability to engage on a large scale. And through some of the surveys I run, give your opinions, but let's have those as structured opinions. So I think be cautious with social media. Be cautious with people who present themselves as experts but really aren't, because I would say about 99% of the advice I see given on social media and lots of commercial websites is actually crap advice.
Right.
Can I say crap now?
Yeah, you can. No, it's fine.
2 minutes before the watershed.
Crap. It's okay. Crap advice, yeah.
So good forage, as good an environment as you can provide for your horse, and not necessarily go in with all the trends that are out there. Look into people who really are experts. You could probably do worse than go on the RVC website or look at what Beaver are saying about something, or World Horse Welfare. It's I'm not saying myself, there are lots of people who are giving good advice and who know what they're talking about. So really research your resources that you use. When you Google something, again, the majority of the stuff that comes up on the first few pages often on Google isn't actually really good advice, and is often paid for advice.
Sponsored advice, absolutely. Sponsored, absolutely. They've got to be so careful of that.
Yeah.
Well, David, do you know what? I've got to know you so much better tonight, and thank you so much for coming on the show.
And Tony, I don't know why you were nervous. You've done a brilliant job.
I was nervous because it's a bit out of my comfort zone. The scientist is sitting over here. Kelly's sitting over here. Yeah, no, they can't see her, but she's sat over there in her pajamas. But when I say,
she's very carefully positioned.
You can see her there. Let's see. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. We're going to say a goodbye now to Dr. David Marlin, who's been fabulous. I've got a couple more things to say you, but first of all, let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Goodbye, my friend.
Thanks.
Goodbye.
Bye, Kelly.
Bye.
Bye.
Wonderful. That was just amazing. And I learned so much. I hope that you also learned so much too. That it's an emerging science, isn't it? There's so much we don't know about horses, and we love them to bits. So there's so much that needs to be known. And Dr. David Marlin is one of those people who is out there absolutely championing this and soldiering it forward, like my wife Kelly is with her thermal imaging PhD. So absolutely awesome. We love horses and we want to see the best out of them. Now listen, a couple more things before I close. Next week, We have another science episode. Well, it's kind of science and art rolled in one. So I'm a little bit more confident about science and art rolled into one because we have the wonderful Gillian from Horses Inside Out. And I've got a little video. Well, actually, it's a wicked video that's going to explain what she's doing next week coming up for you right now.
So I've been asked to do a day behind the scenes with Gillian Higgins of Horses Inside Out. It's early in the morning, cup of tea, need to muck the horses out, and then I will show you round. I feel so lucky to have my horses at home. Come on, let's go and meet. This is Freddie Fox. He is the original Horses Inside Out horse. He's 24 years old now, and I've had him since he was 5 years old. In the early days, we used to go around and do all the lecture demonstrations together. He's now retired from doing lecture demonstrations and from eventing. I evented him up to intermediate level in his day. My dad hacks him out a couple of times a week now, and well, he's just a fabulous horse, aren't you? This is Pumpernickel. Hi, Pumpernickel. We adopted Pumpernickel from the Blue Cross 2 years ago now, and his main role in life is to be a companion pony. We also use him on the courses that we run here, and he's really just great fun.
So there we go. We got Gillian from Horses Inside and Out next week. We're really looking forward to that. Before you go tonight, I've just got one more thing to tell you about. Don't forget, tomorrow night, and literally it's going to take me all day to set up for this tomorrow. We've got the party tomorrow night. We have got fancy dress or best dress prize. Oh, babe, can you get that massive rosette off there, please? I'll show them. We've got the best dress or fancy dress prize. We've also going to auction off a £150 Equidance voucher. Look at this. Look at this rosette. How cool is that? That's for the best dress or fancy dress. £150 as the main prize for an auction. We've got lots of other prizes for the auction as well. So we'll be doing that, and all the auction money will be going to Horse World. What else have we got? What else have we got on the show tomorrow, on the party tomorrow night? Oh, we've got an equestrian pub quiz, and we've really gone to town on this. And it's got what?
Speedmate.
Oh yeah, Speedmate. I'm not allowed to say speed mating apparently. But Speed Mate instead of Speed Date, where we give the opportunity to phone in, be on our big screen. We're going to have balloons up. We got party poppers. We've got a display of wine from Shaw's Iberian series. We've got the lot tomorrow. Please, it's a virtual party. It's an excuse to get dressed up, have some fun with us. Come and join us for a bottle or two of wine. Why not, hey? We can't do anything else. If you're feeling a little low, I promise you, we will cheer you up. Is there anything else to talk about? Yes, Horse World. We do this for nothing. Our guests come on for nothing. We're all about horse welfare. You know we are. So if you can please give something, we would love you to. And here is the text to give to Horse World to 70085 to donate £3. That's Horse World to 70085 to donate £3. And do you know what? You can text that more than once. That's fine. Or you can come onto our page and find out more about them, or go to horseworld.co.uk and you can give monthly or give a generous amount like we did last week. Anyway, thanks for joining us. We really love having you here. Join us next week for Gillian from Horses Inside Out. And then we've got Sir Lee Pearson the week after that. And then after that, we got Tristan Tucker, the TRT method. Thanks again. We love you loads. Take care. Night.